In today's video, I'm going to be explaining Productive Brain 3.0 from a high level and the differences between Productive Brain 2.0 to 3.0. So we'll actually start out by looking at what did 2.0's hierarchy look like. Well, in 2.0, we had areas at the very top of Productive Brain. And these are like your life areas, the things that you care about in your life, the things that you spend the most time on, like family, maybe health is one. You have one for each business. So Productive Dude might be one for me, and then my agency Humways might be another. So these are your areas in your life. Beneath that, we have goals, and we also have topics. So goals and topics are just ways to subcategorize the knowledge management area of your life and the GTD side of your life, the getting things done. So getting things done over here, personal knowledge management over here. Under our goals, we have actions. These items are basically events that happen throughout our days that we want to plan ahead on, that we want to look back on, however you might want to look at that. And then topics had a few things under them. We had notes, which are just that. They're notes, they're text files. And then we also had bookmarks, which are links to pages or files that we had stored somewhere. So that is the 2.0 way. We also had days, and this database contains every day that happens. And within that, we track a few things. We track habits, which are checkboxes. We track metrics, which are numbered properties. And then we also had these databases called highs, which were like the good things that happened during the day, and then lows, like bad things that happened. So it's kind of a qualitative way to track what happened in our day. So moving on to 3.0, there have been some changes that I want to address. The first is that areas will remain, but within it, we're now going to just have one database called sub areas. So instead of having goals and topics, we now just have sub areas. And sub areas are basically just these different ways to break down your life. Instead of breaking it down just using GTD and personal knowledge management, we can now break this down in any way that we want. So we could have notebooks here. If you're a student, you could have a notebook for each class, for instance. And then you could also have goals if you want goals for sub areas. And you could even just have like tags or like topics like we had in the old system. But now it is an open free system. So a sub area can literally be whatever you want it to be. Within sub areas, we still have actions, which are your tasks or your events that are happening on a day-to-day basis. But we've consolidated notes and bookmarks down to resources in this system. And resources are your links, files, notes, etc. Anything that you're keeping track of that's not like a task or an event could go in resources. And then you think of the sub areas as folders on top of these actions and resources, and the areas are higher level folders that keep track of everything underneath that. So here's some examples of how this hierarchy could come together in 3.0. For areas, we could have, for instance, a business. So let's say Productive Dude. And then let's say I was still in school. I could add school as an area. So we would have these high level areas, right? I might have another one like called health. I might have one called family. Really whatever you want to label those as, but you'd have a bunch of areas. Within those, you'd have different sub areas. These could be goals. So maybe for productive dude, I want to hit 100K. I want to finish the template. So these might be sub area goals that I have underneath. But then I might also just have like videos. So this is just where I would like store my video script notes. So I can really break these down into any sub areas that I want. And I can break down school into sub areas as well. So let's say I break this down into my classes. So I might have like math as a notebook sub area level. And then I might have psychology or any other classes that I might have here. And then under health, I might have some other sub areas that I want to break things down to. But you're not just limited to goals and topics now. You could basically call these whatever you want. They're sub areas essentially. And then within those, we're going to have tasks, which are actions. And we're going to have like notes or files, which are resources. So you should be able to pretty much fill anything into these that you want. And these are just a few examples of how you could fill out a 3.0 productive brain with this current hierarchy, the way that it is set up.